Hello, my name is Brant, uh, Brant Hunt. My channel is simply called Discerning What is True. I've been doing videos for quite a while. I know it's been at least a year or maybe a year and a half as I continue to search with the help of Phil Langdon, who shared with me many things deeper and wider, as they would say, to help me to see the purpose in being here. We all have a purpose in being here. Um, Sometimes it's one step at a time. Sometimes it's maybe multiple steps at a time, you see, and leading to what we call, or as Phil will share, the issue of ascension. So let's get into the reading here. Again, this is Kabbalah and Exodus. The author's name is Zev Ben Shimon Halevi. This is the 14th chapter, and this is called The Point of No Return, based upon the two chapters of Exodus 14 and 15. So when the Israelites panicked at the sight of the Egyptians, they were instructed to strike camp. Moses then lifted the staff that had been created at the beginning of the world and stretched it out over the waters, which at first, according to folklore, did not acknowledge his human command. But when the sea perceived that the staff bore the divine name, it fled on either side. Tradition tells us that this division occurred on earth and in all the worlds above, so that grace might descend directly to aid the Israelites in their escape. In individual experience that is, witnessed when everything related to a major internal transformation is reflected in external events, which should concur with the change in the state of the person. Accordingly to another oral tradition, the Red Sea did not part until the first Israelite set his foot in it, believing that it would part. And yet another tells us how the tribes continued to be the first to cross. All these anecdotes describe the various attitudes of different parts of the psyche again, to taking the initial step to the point of no return. Rabbinical literature informs us that the dividing of the sea was the first of 10 miracles associated with the passage across it. These events include 12 paths that open up, one for each tribe, sweet water flowing out of brine, Brine, by which the Israelites satisfied their thirst, and the phenomenon that whatever the Israelites desired, such as an apple, could be plucked from the waves. These and the other strange happenings signify the entrance into a totally different domain. This was an act of grace, allowing a taste of the good things to come. Such phenomenon are often experienced by those rising out of the mundane state into a higher condition. In this transitional state, glimpses and tastes of Eden occurred, and unexpected opportunities present themselves to the individual who, for a honeymoon period, experience possibilities hereto only read about it in esoteric fairy tales or sacred literature. Jewish folklore speaks of the confrontation at this point between the angel of Egypt, which is Uzza, Uzza, and the archangel Michael, the defender of Israel. In this contest, which describes not only the celestial conflict, but the battle between the lower archetypes of the body and the higher archetypes of the psyche. The gods of Egypt are chastised for their ingratitude towards the house of Israel, whose wisdom has saved their nation from famine at the time of Joseph. That is, the animal soul had forgotten the presence of the spirit which gave it vision and life. Instead, it had enslaved Israeli children, or the psyche that sojourned within the land of the body. Quote, and the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud came between the camp of Israel and the camp of Egypt, based upon Exodus chapter 14, 19. Thus, there was no contact as the Egyptians pursued the Israelites through the pathway in the sea. The text then goes on to say how the Lord looked at the Egyptian host through the pillar of fire and cloud and troubled them so that they cried, quote, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them," end quote. This describes the turning point in the conflict between the body and the psyche, in that the animal soul begins to realize that it cannot perform outside its domain. Right. Thus, the Egyptian host starts to falter as it gets further and further from its own shore, that is, across the zone that divides the psyche from the body. The folk saga goes on to say that despite this moving out of their depth, the Egyptians still sought to hurt the Israelites with arrows and spears backed by the frightening blasts of trumpets and horns. These were met by the counterclacks of thunder and bolts of lightning from the angelical hosts. In the individual context, these symbolize the activities of the deep unconscious or highly psychological centers that operate above the ego as it separates out from being the slave, or what we call Dad, D-A-A-T, or knowledge. The body to become the honorable servant of the psyche. When all the Israelites had reached the far side of the Red Sea, Moses was instructed to stretch out his hand so that the sea might return to its original proper place. So it was that the Egyptians, who could pursue as long as there was dry land, was caught between two worlds as the waters poured back. Such a situation is not unknown among those who pursue an interest in power and to the dangerous waters of sorcery and magic. Here, drowning in treacherous tides is a risk for those whose feet leave the ground, but who have no wish to reach the far side. Legend has it that when the Egyptians were drowning, the hosts of heaven rejoiced. For this, they were rebuked by God, who said that justice was carried out. It was a sad matter, for the Creator did not enjoy the destruction of his creatures. From the Kabbalistic point of view, we are shown how far into the psyche the body can penetrate. And if we look at the overlapping trees of the body and psyche, this is borne out by theory and experience. The moment of detaching the body, dominating influences comes when the focus of consciousness shifts worlds to become principally psychological. That is symbolized by the arrival on the far side of the Red Sea. In other words, they're in a new land, you see. They've crossed over, you see. When the Israelites looked back, not only did they see that their path was now closed by the waters, but that the dead Egyptians laid on the seashore. For a moment, the Israelites were stunned by the mortality of these powerful symbols of the flesh. Then they realized that they were free by God's grace. Through no effort of their own, they had been brought out of the shadow of physical death and into the possibility of immortal life. This occurs when the miraculous opens the eye of the soul in the midst of perhaps great suffering or joy, deep stillness or immense activity, to glimpse a view of paradise and even heaven beyond the domain of nature. Thus, it was in a moment that Moses and the children of Israel burst into the praises of God, singing, quote, "Who is like unto thee, O Lord? Thou in thy mercy hast led forth the people which thou hast redeemed unto thy holy habitation." So this, again, this is a story of what I would call finding out who you really are. We need to understand that we are spirits. Okay, and we are in a material world. And we have forgotten about the spirit part because simply as we're living in a flesh now. We were not in the flesh before we came here. once we came here with the flesh, we didn't know what to do. And most people who have incarnated here a few times, if not many times, still don't know what to do, because it's a process. Some are moved a little bit quicker sometimes, some maybe barely. That's part of God's grace and goodness, you see, mercy, because simply is it's not a timeline to hurry up and get there, so to speak. What I mean by that simply is you can hurry up and get there if you want to pursue it, but most people are not aware of it. They haven't had a teacher. In scriptures, it states that there are few workers for the many. They're talking about it's a spiritual context here. It's not a physical context. In other words, the physical context is that there are few people who will be able to reap the harvest. People would understand that must be to do with a physical aspect. No, not exactly. It's to do with spiritual deal. There are angels here, but compared to the many billions and billions of people who live on this planet, they are very few, you see. And each one has an objective and why they're here, is to hopefully help others to begin to have what I call a springboard of moving forward. So thank you for the time. I hope I hope you would seek these things because they're far more important than anything else. That is your choice, you see. And I'm very fortunate to meet Phil Langdon, who is an angel, who understands when I ask questions many times and not knowing, or either lost myself, you see, not understanding it. As the more you look at these things, like this particular reading, and you realize that simply these are allegories, painting a picture, a much different picture than what is taught in churches or what is taught even in history. A couple of weeks ago, I had my car worked on, and there was the History Channel was actually being shown there in the place where you have your car repaired. So I watched it. It's kind of interesting because they went in all kinds of stories about Noah and his boat, how it was built. There are all kinds of guys, people who have come up with some type of theories where it was at, trying to find it. And I remember to myself as I was thinking, I said, they'll never find it because it's not history. It's not a literal story. And this is where, that's the part of your understanding simply is you begin to realize that the Bible is not a history book. And it's not a literal book at all. It contains names that we've never heard of before. Like the name Jethro, well, not Jethro, but other names in the Bible that just like, where did this come from? But we actually overlooked that because simply as we say, well, that's must have been their names back a long time ago. That was, 6,000 years ago, 5,000, whatever we think in our mind. And thinking, oh yeah, okay, well that's kind of a weird name. Da, 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 da. And then when you begin to look at what I call a metaphysical book, which this has only been written, this was written back in the 1930s and 20s, this particular booklet. So this is a what I would call a book that's not very thick, that basically just gets to the point of what the names are in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament. And what does the name Saul mean? What does the name Solomon mean? What does the name Jethro, all these names, so to speak. I had forgotten basically the name of Jethro in the Bible. You see, I remember having a deal back in the 7th grade in a Christian private Christian school, saying I'm going to read the Bible every day and read it over, have it done within a year, which I did accomplish that, but I didn't really learn anything. I just, I did that in a way which was instituted in a way to get people to read the Bible. You see, and it's a clever trick in some ways also to think you're learning something, but you really don't learn anything there. You just realize you're doing it. You're doing it in reality simply because your teacher told you to do it. That's the reason why. So, okay. Again, this will be my last set tonight. Hope that you had a good day. Wish you the best. And thank you for listening again. This is something entitled Point of No Return. And this is, once you, in a way, I would say here, once you taste the something different in your life, you begin, if you want to, you can continue to go deeper. So, by the way, if you want to watch any, you can go and watch Phil Langdon. He has many videos he's done. Some of those videos were done years and years ago. Some he's done just simply by himself, and then a few have been done by me asking him certain questions. There have been others also who enlisted him and asked questions. This has been going on since he had his ascension moment way back in 2014, I think it was, right? 2014. I think it was December 2014. So anyway, have a good evening. You take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.